जी, so Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you who have joined. I see that wow, 47 students have joined. Okay, no problem. Hope we'll see more students. Thank you. Actually, so Abhi, let's talk about embryology for now. ठीक है? So अभी तक ये जो pharyngeal apparatus जितना हमने किया है, do you have any problems so far? Any questions? Anything you want me to repeat? Repeat तो मैं साथ साथ करती ही जाती हूँ और हर lecture के शुरू में भी I start my lecture with a quick repetition of my previous lecture. But if there's anything that you still want me to repeat, so I'm ready to do it for you. चलिए, never mind, मैं खुद ही इसको कर लेती हूँ. We were doing the pharyngeal pouches. The first pharyngeal pouch, I told you, had a dorsal and ventral wing, and the first pharyngeal pouch developed into the middle ear cavity. And it's the connection of the pouch with the this developing pharynx. This connection of the first pharyngeal pouch with the pharynx, this narrows down and it develops into the auditory tube, also called the pharyngotympanic tube. Okay. Second pouch, once again, we have a dorsal and a ventral wing. Dorsal wing takes part in the formation of the tubotympanic recess. In other words, it takes part in the formation of the middle ear cavity. ये questionable है. First arch याद रख लीजिए. First arch develops into the middle ear cavity. However, the ventral wing of the second pouch develops into the palatine tonsil. और हमने palatine tonsil की detailed development हमने की थी. This was a quick view of the histology. ये tonsillar crypts थी और ये lymphoid follicles. ठीक है ना? So आपको बताया था ये जो endoderm of the ये pouch जो थी, that proliferated, filled up the pouch, and then this endoderm got arranged in the form of cords. In cords के central cells degenerate किए and they developed into tonsillar crypts. ये primary crypts है, ये secondary crypts है. ठीक है? And then the mesenchyme developed into these nodules. And whatever were the remains of the pouch, they developed into the tonsillar fossa. And I hope you appreciate इसके epithelium जो है वो endodermal development है. Third pouch. ये third pouch, once again a dorsal and a ventral wing. और आपको ये भी बताया था the dorsal wing was solid and developed into inferior parathyroid, जबकि इसका ventral wing जो था that was kind of narrow and hollow, and that developed into the thymus. I hope you appreciate one thing, कि ये substructures जो हैं they are bilateral. That is, they develop on the right and left side. Thymus की development भी हमने कर ली थी. हमने कहा था कि on either side, one on either side, these two, these dorsal wings of the third pouch, they descend medially and inferiorly. ये देख लीजिए इसकी direction आपको नजर आ रही है. It's going inferiorly and medially. They fuse in the midline and retain the individual entities. They are separate entities and they retain their individual individuality. Develop into two lobes. Each lobe has its own capsule, its own nerve supply, etc. ठीक है ना? और हमने ये भी कहा था कि ये on the inside it is formed of endodermal cells, and these some cells they aggregate to form thymic corpuscles or Hassel's corpuscles, but there are other cells that move apart, but their processes are joined to each other. They do not lose connection with each other. They are joined to each other through these processes. These cells are called epithelial reticular cells, and then there's the connective tissue in between. This connective tissue develops into the septa, and the surrounding capsule जो है, that is neural crest region. Lymphocytes इसमें T type के होते हैं. You have T lymphocytes, ठीक है, that are arranged in the peripheral part, that is the cortex, where there is a dense arrangement of lymphocyte. However, in the center, which is the medulla, the arrangement of lymphocyte is quite loose. But in any case, the entire organ is made up of T lymphocytes, so there are no nodules in the thymus. T lymphocytes never makes up nodules. Diffuse ही रहती है इसकी. Okay, अब हम fourth pouch पे आ जाए. This topic for today, ठीक है? And by now I think we have a few more students have joined us. Yes, from 47 we have gone up to 110. चलिए जी, fourth pharyngeal pouch पे आ जाते हैं. Fourth pharyngeal pouch once again has ये fourth pouch है बेटा, ये इसका, ये dorsal wing and a ventral wing, ठीक है? And this is the connection of the fourth pouch with the, this is the developing pharynx, and this is this is the connection of the fourth pouch with the pharynx, ये narrow part. अब इसका जो dorsal wing है, ये हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था. थर्ड पाउच, dorsal wing inferior parathyroid, ventral wing thymus. Fourth pouch, dorsal wing superior parathyroid, ventral wing query. It develops into ultimobranchial body. Ultimobranchial body gives rise to parafollicular cells of the thyroid gland. और ये जो connection है of the pouch with the pharynx, this connection, this degenerates. ये वाला connection, ये degenerate कर जाता है. ठीक है जी? अच्छा, now let's do the histogenesis of the parathyroid gland. When I did the third pouch, structures developing from the third pouch, I told you the third pouch, the dorsal wing developed into inferior parathyroid. I just mentioned this. I did not do the histogenesis because I thought I'd do it together. Because both the parathyroids, they have the same histogenesis. उसमें कोई फर्क नहीं है. So fifth week में, the epithelium of this pouch, this proliferates. We are talking about dorsal wing of the third pouch and dorsal wing of the fourth pouch. So dorsal wings, in both the dorsal wings, third and fourth pouch, the epithelium proliferates and makes up nodules. Okay? These nodules are then invaded by vascular mesenchyme. Vascular mesenchyme then develops into capillaries. I repeat once again, ये जो dorsal wing of the third pouch, dorsal wing of the fourth pouch. आपको पता है कि these pouches are lined by endoderm. So endoderm of both these dorsal wings, this proliferates. This proliferated endoderm then breaks down and forms nodules. These nodules are invaded by vascular mesenchyme. In other words, vascular mesenchyme penetrates into the developing nodules. और ये जो vascular mesenchyme that has entered these nodules, this develops into capillaries. We have mainly two types of cells in the parathyroid gland. You have chief cells and you have occipital cells. Chief cells जो होते हैं, they develop in the embryonic period. जबकि occipital cells जो हैं, they develop after birth, 5 to 7 years after birth. Okay? Then you know that these developing parathyroid, the third one, this develops caudally. In fact, both they develop caudally, but the superior one, and both pass, as they develop caudally, they pass behind the developing thyroid gland, which is present in the midline. Yeah. Okay. So the superior parathyroid is lodged over here. It gets attached at this side, but ये जो inferior था, even though it is developed at higher level, but it is pulled down by the developing thymus. As the thymus goes down, it pulls the inferior parathyroid. However, this inferior parathyroid, as the thymus is also migrating medially, this inferior parathyroid also moves in a medial direction and comes to lie behind the inferior part, in the lower half of the developing thyroid gland. So the two parathyroids, the fourth one develops into the superior parathyroid and the third one develops into the inferior parathyroid. I hope this thing is clear. Abhi tak, do you have any questions? Okay, fine. So you don't have any questions. Good. That's very good. अच्छा जी, ultimate branchial body की हम बात कर रहे थे from the ventral wing. अब ये fourth के ventral wing से develop होता है. I'm sorry. ठीक है. As the structures of the developing from the fourth pouch, as they move medially and pass behind the developing thyroid gland, I mean the superior parathyroid developing from the fourth pouch, as it passes behind the and comes to lie behind the developing thyroid gland. तो ये जो इसके ventral wing से develop हुआ था ultimobranchial body, this also passes behind the developing thyroid gland. अब ये जो ultimobranchial body है ना, इसके cells they break down and form smaller clusters or individual cells that disseminate throughout the thyroid gland. Parathyroid तो सिर्फ इसके posterior surface पे जाके attach हुआ था, लेकिन ये जो ultimobranchial body जो break down करके cell clusters इसके बन गए, ये clusters of cells, they penetrate into the substance of the thyroid gland and then they develop into parafollicular cells, C cells, calcitonin producing cells. ठीक है, ये basically ये cells neural restoration के होते हैं. आपको पता है, a lot of structures developing in the head and neck, in the pharyngeal apparatus. The mesenchyme from which they are developed is contributed by neural crest. ये हमने day 1 पे determine कर लिया था. Fifth pharyngeal pouch either never develops or if it develops at all, it degenerates. उस पे question mark है, it may also develop into ultimobranchial body. आपको just for your information, just for your interest, ये आपकी किताब में नहीं दिया वो, लेकिन बाकी books mention करती हैं. This is the fifth pouch. It has no independent connection of its own, no connection with the developing paras. It simply opens into the proximal part of the fourth pouch. So the fifth pouch opens into the paras through the proximal part of the fourth pouch. आपके लिए इतना ही काफी. Ultimobranchial body याद रख लीजिए. Fourth pouch से वो develop होती है, but it may receive some contribution from the fifth pouch as well. Pharyngeal clefts पे आ जाते हैं. Pouches were finished. 4 की जो हमने develop करवा दी. अच्छा जी. Pharyngeal cleft पे आ जाते हैं. आपको पता है कि by 4th to 5th week, you have about 4 clefts. Taken only one cleft persists. The first cleft persists. Okay? And it grows deeper into the mesenchyme. ये जो first cleft that persisted, this you can see this is the exterior. So this is simply invagination of the ectoderm on the surface of the developing embryo between the first and the second pharyngeal arches. This is the first cleft. It penetrates deeper into the underlying mesenchyme. This is the deep first cleft. This develops into external auditory meatus or air canal. जो आप कान में उंगली डालते हैं, what you feel, your finger goes through that tunnel structure. That is the external auditory meatus. अच्छा, चलिए मेम्ब्रेन पे भी आ जाते हैं, यहीं पे कर लेती हूँ. This is the endoderm that penetrates into the deeper into the mesenchyme, forming the first pouch. The endoderm of the first of the developing pharynx comes in contact with the ectoderm of the lying between the first and the second arch. The ectoderm that was going deeper. Ectoderm comes in contact with the endoderm. In between is trapped a little mesenchyme. So together they make up the structure which is the pharyngeal membrane. Okay? This membrane then develops into eardrum. कान का पर्दा जो होता है, the eardrum. Okay? So the eardrum is lined on the outside, on the external surface, it is lined by ectoderm. यानी जो side external auditory meatus को face करती है, that develops into ectoderm, and the lining epithelium on the inner surface side or the surface towards the pouch. This is in contact with the endoderm of the developing pharynx. So ये endoderm से develop होती है. So two epithelial surfaces होंगी, एक on the inside जो कि endodermal region है, and एक one from the outside जो ectodermal region है. In between you have this small bit of mesenchyme trapped in between the two epithelia. अच्छा जी, हमने ये पहले भी डिस्कस किया था कि फर्स्ट पाउच से तो हमने एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटरी meatus डेवलप करवा लिया. However, the second pouch में प्रॉब्लम ये हुआ था कि it started growing rapidly and moved in a caudal direction. As it moved in a caudal direction, second arch की बात कर रही हूँ, as the second arch moved in a caudal direction, now it comes to overlie the second and the third pouch. ये fourth pouch है, ठीक है. Third and fourth pouch जो है, second, third and fourth, ये overgrow कर जाती है इनके ऊपर, ठीक है. As a result, ये third and fourth को जब ये overlap कर रही है, तो the third and the fourth pouch come to lie in this depression. ये जो देख लीजिए, ये जो cavity सी है जिसमें ये third and fourth, ये third and ये fourth, इसमें ये lie करते हैं. This cavity is called cervical sinus. ये जो second arch है, this fuses with this part which is the epicardial ridge in the lower part of the neck. After the fusion of the second arch, the long process of the second arch with the epicardial ridge, so after this fusion, the surface of the neck becomes smooth. और ये जो cervical sinus है, ये वाला cervical sinus, this disappears. Okay, there is no connection of the cervical sinus with the exterior. ये normal development है. अब हम करते हैं कि abnormal development इसमें क्या है. Because इतने complicated और इतने multiple structures के साथ ही develop हो रहा है. The structures in the head and neck. तो there are bound to be some problems here and there. Minor anomalies में कर लेते हैं. Sorry, ये जो congenital auricular sinuses and cysts हैं, pre-auricular sinuses and cysts, ये बेटा they are considered to be minor anomalies. ये cysts और sinuses. Sinus आपको पता है is an abnormal communication between two epithelial surfaces. Or cyst is a sac-like structure जो कि fluid fill होता है. This is also not normal. Okay. Now, इसमें the area in which these cysts or sinuses mostly are present is this triangular area in front of the hair, anterior in front of this auricle. ये auricle है या ear है, pinna. In front of the pinna, this triangular area. This is because of some remnants of the pharyngeal groove. उसके अलावा another reason for the formation of these cysts is ये जो ectoderm है, this becomes sequestered inside. If it is folded inside, sequestration is folding, inward folding. So part of the ectoderm gets folded inside. अब normally in foldings नहीं होती. Ectoderm की जो है इस तरह के pieces of ectoderm lying inside the deep to the developing ectoderm इस तरह normally नहीं होता. But if some part of the ectoderm is trapped inside, तो फिर they may develop into congenital auricular sinuses. Branchial sinus या इसको cervical sinus भी कहते हैं. बेटा मैं ये normally आपको इस बारे में question आता है actually. So you have to know them, like it or not, but yes, you have to know them. Okay. Cervical sinus की अगर हम बात करें, दो types के होते हैं, external and internal. Internal branchial या cervical sinus या external cervical sinus, इनको branchial arches आपको बताया था कि cervical ये जो आपके pharyngeal arches हैं, they are also called branchial arches. अच्छा जी, ये तस्वीरें जो हैं ये आपकी ही किताब में से ली हैं. They are present in your book. ये I think lineman की है, पर a similar one, not that good, but a similar drawing is present in your care. Cervical sinus की बात कर देते हैं. External sinus, external cervical sinus की अगर हम बात करें, so this is developed because of failure of the normally second cervical second groove that disappears. Second pharyngeal groove normally disappears. Cervical sinus ये second groove disappear कर जाता है. ये जो second cervical sinus जो develop हुआ था, ये भी normally disappear कर जाता है. If it persists, part of it, if it persists, it opens over here along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay. So it alongs the inferior 1/3 of the anterior border. ये usual site है sternocleidomastoid के anterior border and lower 1/3. इस level पे this is the usual site where the cervical sinus opens. और आपको बताए cervical sinus because the second pharyngeal groove ये persist करता है, it fails to perforate completely. या फिर cervical sinus की failure of the cervical sinus to perforate. These two reasons are the cause of the external branchial sinus. ठीक है. अब हम internal branchial sinus पे आ जाते हैं. हमने अभी tonsil की बात की थी, उसके डेवलपमेंट की थी. I'm सॉरी हमने ग्रॉस एनाटमी ऑफ द टॉन्सिल अभी पढ़ी नहीं है, पर आपको just to give you a brief overview of what the tonsil is. The tonsil is a lymphoid aggregation. आपने इसकी histology पढ़ी. It is lying in a fossa. ठीक है, उसको tonsil fossa कहते हैं. Pharynx में होता है, lateral wall of the pharynx में होता है. ये जो sinus है, ये देख लीजिए, internal branchial sinus. This opens over here into the tonsillar sinus. Okay. Second pouch, persistent of second pouch. Second pouch persist करती है and it opens. Second pouch से अगर आपको याद हो तो हमने tonsil की development की थी. So because the second pouch persists, तो ये जो internal branchial sinus है, this sinus, ये देख लीजिए, this opens into, ये देख लीजिए, ये tonsil develop हो रहा है, palatine tonsil, ठीक है. So ये branchial sinus जो है, this develops because of persistence of the second pouch. अच्छा, अब आ जाते हैं branchial fistula पे. Branchial fistula जो है, fistula is an abnormal communication between two epithelial surfaces. Sinus में एक end blind-ended होता है, एक end blind होती है, and दूसरा end opens into the epithelial surface. मैं आपको यहाँ पे दिखा देती हूँ. यहाँ पे one end is opening into the tonsillar fossa, which is an epithelial lined surface. ये endodermal line है, जबकि the other end is blind. ठीक है, ये fistula है, सॉरी ये sinus है. जबकि fistula में you have both ends of this abnormal tract are open. अच्छे जी. अब what happens is कि once again persistence, if it is related to the tonsil, पहली बात तो ये, and if it is related to the tonsil, so putting 2 and 2 together, you know tonsil develops from the second arch. So one end opens into the tonsillar sinus, pharynx. The other end opens into the skin. This tract passes between the internal and the external carotid arteries. अब ये जो the end that is opening into the skin, अब ये कहाँ पे खुलती है? This I hope you appreciate कि ये जो tract है, then it will be passing through the skin, subcutaneous tissue, the platysma muscle, then the carotid sheath. In carotid sheath में you have these two arteries lined. It passes between the two. The fistula passes between the two arteries, and then it opens into the tonsillar sinus. ये इसका है. External opening जिसकी होती है, that is in the neck, once again along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. अच्छा जी, piriform sinus जो है, this results from ये जो ultimobranchial body जो है, इसके persistence की वजह से you have this piriform sinus fistula, which was something very rare. Branchial cyst की बात कर लेते हैं. This is the branchial cyst. ठीक है, ये second pharyngeal groove. सेकेंड ग्रूव नॉर्मली प्रिफरेट करता है, लेकिन इफ पार्ट ऑफ इट परसिस्ट्स तो या सर्वाइकल साइनस की वजह से दिस डेवलप्स हियर in the neck, develops as an either as an elongated swelling or a spherical swelling below the angle of the mandible. Okay? And it is associated with branchial sinus, and the branchial sinus may drain into them. अब यहाँ पे ये देख लीजिए, along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. Generally this develops is develop तो ये intrauterine life में हो जाती है, but it becomes visible late childhood या early adulthood में it becomes visible and it grows and yeah it enlarges to भी आप कहना चाहिए, it grows larger because जो अंदर epithelial lining है इसमें secretion start हो जाती है and there is accumulation of fluid and cellular debris, just cells line करते हैं इस system, obviously they also die out. So because of accumulation of fluid secreted by the lining is on the inside of this cyst, so this cyst develops into becomes enlarged and develops below the angle of the mandible along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. This is the site of the below the angle of the mandible along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. This is the usual site of the, but obviously when the cyst enlarges, it is difficult to appreciate where angle of the anterior border of the sternomastoid कौन सा है अच्छा जी आगे चलते हैं, ये देख लीजिए, this looks like a piece of cartilage. ठीक है, branchial vestiges जो होते हैं they are pieces of cartilage or pieces of bone present at a site जहाँ where they should not be present. Now how do they develop? Like अब यहाँ पे subcutaneous tissue में this is present. Normally subcutaneous tissue में तो fat हो गई, connective tissue होगा, but what happens is if any remnant of the skeletal component develops into bone or cartilage. अब जिस cartilage या bone को normally disappear कर जाना चाहिए, if part of it persists, then this develops into a cartilage. Usually deep to the skin ये develop होती है, and the usual site is they are present along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, lower 1/3 way. So they are simply pieces of cartilage or pieces of bone present under the skin. Present where? Along यहाँ से sternomastoid आएगा like this. So they are present along the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid at its lower 1/3. Okay, ये तस्वीर आपके किताब में नहीं है, ये मैंने इंटरनेट से ली थी. First arch syndrome. This is unfortunately the components of the first arch, they fail to develop normally. So any abnormal development present in the components of the first pharyngeal arch could result in this syndrome. इसका दूसरा cause what they say is कि neural crest cells जो हैं, since they contribute to the formation of structures in the head and neck, तो ये if there is insufficient migration of neural crest cells, not enough are present in the first arch. Fourth week में normally neural crest cells जो हैं ये migrate करते हैं, but if these neural crest cells they fail to migrate normally, so it may result in this unfortunate condition which is called Treacher-Collins syndrome, mandibulofacial dysostosis. अब इस Treacher-Collins syndrome में Treacher-Collins syndrome बेसिकली ऑटोसोमल डोमिनेंट जीन होती है। इसमें अब आप वन बाय वन देखिए। एक तो ये फर्स्ट आर्च का प्रॉब्लम है, उसके साथ फर्स्ट ग्रूव भी इन्वॉल्व हो जाता है। एज अ रिजल्ट ये देखिए द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटरी में ये टेस्ट जो है एक्सटर्नल लेयर उसकी डेवलपमेंट एबनॉर्मल है, ठीक है। एंड middle layer or internal layer. So all three components of the layer, external layer, middle layer, internal layer, all of them are affected. Okay, ये देख लीजिए डाउनवर्ड स्लैंटिंग आईज है, लोअर लिड ये देखिए एबनॉर्मल है, ये जो पैल्पेब्रल फिशर्स हैं ये देख लीजिए ओब्लिकली सेट है, लोअर लिड एबनॉर्मल है। एक चीज यहाँ पे प्रोमिनेंटली नजर नहीं आ रही बट इन बच्चों में होती है, दैट इज ये जो आपकी ज़ाइगोमैटिक बोन है दैट इज अंडर डेवलप्ड, सो एज अ रिजल्ट ज़ाइगोमैटिक आर्च नहीं डेवलप होती, सो इसको मैलर हाइपोप्लेजिया मैलर हाइपोप्लेजिया कहते हैं इसको। All because of maldevelopment of components of the first pharyngeal arch. दूसरा कंपोनेंट इसका जो है, एक हमने ट्रीचर-कॉलिन्स सिंड्रोम का है, दूसरा इसका कंपोनेंट जो है वो फेयर-रॉबिन सिंड्रोम है। You could the baby may either be suffering from one or the other, so या फेयर-रॉबिन भी हो सकता है और ट्रीचर-कॉलिन भी हो सकता है। If it is an autosomal recessive disorder, then it is Fair-Robin syndrome. If it is autosomal dominant disorder, देख लीजिए अगर autosomal dominant gene involved, तो फिर it develops into Treacher-Collins syndrome. इसके भी फीचर्स कर लेते हैं Fair-Robin syndrome के। एक तो वही उसमें बोन का ही उसमें भी बोन का ही मैल डेवलपमेंट थी, लेकिन इन दैट केस आपको ये मैलर ज़ाइगोमैटिक बोन की प्रॉब्लम थी, मैल डेवलपमेंट थी। यहाँ पे यू हैव हाइपोप्लेजिया ऑफ द मैंडिबल। ये देखिए इट इज अ स्मॉल मैंडिबल व्हिच इज पुश्ड बैक, ठीक है। तो दिस इज द हाइपोप्लेजिया ऑफ द मैंडिबल। बिसाइड्स इसमें ये क्लेफ्ट बायलैटरल क्लेफ्ट लिप होता है, ये क्लेफ्टिंग है, ये क्लेफ्ट है, सॉरी क्लेफ्ट पैलेट, लिप नहीं क्लेफ्ट पैलेट। दिस इज द डेवलपिंग पैलेट, सो इट इज क्लेफ्ट पैलेट, बायलैटरल क्लेफ्ट पैलेट है। एयर्स देखें इसमें लो सेट है, ठीक है। सो एयर्स की भी मैल डेवलपमेंट है, आईज की भी मैल डेवलपमेंट होती है इसमें। अब ये जो स्मॉल मैंडिबल है इसको माइक्रोनैथिया कहते हैं, जी इसमें साइलेंट है, सो इट इज माइक्रोनैथिया। कॉज क्या है? इट्स द पोस्टीरियर डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द टंग। जब टंग पोस्टीरियरली डेवलप करेगी तो अब जब हम टंग की डेवलपमेंट करेंगे तो यू विल रियलाइज दैट द टंग descends during its development, the tongue descends, and that leads to the fusion of the two halves of the palate. Okay? So if the tongue does not descend enough, तो ये palate के दोनों halves they remain open, and you have the development of a bilateral cleft. Okay? So tongue is pushed posteriorly, is placed posteriorly, and since it does not descend enough, so the palate, the two parts of the palate, they fail to fuse, resulting in the development of bilateral cleft palate. Okay, and unfortunate problems that we have. This is DIGEORGE syndrome. In this condition, the child is born without the thymus and parathyroid glands. Mostly it is inferior parathyroid because with the thymus from the third arch develops the inferior parathyroid. Both parathyroids may be parathyroids from both the arches may be missing. इसमें फिर problem along with this, the associated problem is कि cardiac heart के problems होते हैं. Outflow tracts of the heart, they do not develop normally. जब पैराथायरॉइड्स नहीं होंगे तो हाइपर पैराथायरॉइडिज्म होगा. हाइपो absence of parathyroid glands leads to hypoparathyroidism. उसके अलावा when thymus is absent, in the absence of thymus there are no T lymphocytes. thymus में T lymphocytes होते हैं. जब T lymphocytes नहीं होंगे, उनका function normal नहीं होगा, तो the person is susceptible to infections. उनमें infection के chance are higher. There is higher chances of infection in these people. Then you have low set ears, nasal cavities में cleft होता है, thyroid का भी hyperplasia होता है, megallic anomalies मैंने आपको बता दी हैं. Outflow tracts की anomalies होती हैं, arch of the aorta और heart की, because once again वो neural crest के problems होती हैं. इसके अलावा mouth की problems होती हैं, fish-like mouth होती है, fish-like deformity of the mouth होती है, short upper lip होता है, philtrum of the lip is short. Multiple deformities होती हैं in this poor child. Reason क्या है? Third and fourth pouches, failure of the third and fourth pouches to develop normally, with the result the two parathyroids and the thymus, they fail to develop. अब दोनों parathyroids नहीं हैं because third pouch भी involved हो गई and fourth pouch भी involved हो गई. Facial abnormalities जो होती हैं ये ज़्यादा first arch के components में से होती हैं, and I told you earlier on कि neural crest जो है उसकी migration is very important over here. So when the neural crest do not migrate normally, so this results in cardiac anomalies. हम already कर चुके हैं. Cardiac valves की anomalies भी हो सकती हैं. Okay. Accessory thymic tissues. अब normally neck में से ये migrate करके comes to lie in the upper part of the thorax. But during its migration, ये जो tract है इसमें tissues of the thymus, they may break down and part of it may remain inside the neck. So you have isolated masses of thymic tissue present in the neck. Usually it is, since third arch se develop ho raha hai along with the parathyroid, so it is these accessory thymic tissues, they are in close association with the inferior parathyroid. They may migrate down along with the developing thymus. Anywhere lower down in the neck, close to the parathyroid, anywhere. Ectopic parathyroid gland भी होते हैं, and they may develop anywhere inside the thyroid gland or near the thymus or wherever. अब इसमें mostly inferior parathyroid की involvement होती है. इसकी abnormal position is more common because it is the inferior parathyroid that has to migrate a long way. Superior to have fourth से develop हुआ and it is lying immediately very close to the developing thyroid और इसकी posterior surface पे जाके ये attach हो जाता है. So inferior parathyroid, if it fails to descend or descends excessively. यहाँ पे या के attach नहीं हुआ, descends. Okay, either failure of descent of the inferior parathyroid or it descends abnormally. दूसरी उसकी usual location जो है, that is bifurcation of the common carotid artery, thorax में, neck में, या in the thorax, anywhere. So this superior parathyroid is more constant in its location. Inferior parathyroid may be lying anywhere. Okay, from the upper part of the neck to the vicinity of the thyroid gland, to the bifurcation of the common carotid artery in the neck, or down into the thorax, anywhere. The inferior parathyroid. अच्छा जी, normally 4 parathyroids होते हैं, 2 superior, 2 inferior. There may be more than 4. ठीक है, अब उसकी वजह क्या है कि वो जो ओरिजिनल पैराथायराइड था उसकी डिवीजन हो गई. So division of the primordia of the original parathyroid, developing parathyroid की, या फिर ये है कि one of the parathyroid simply may fail to develop. उसका primordium जो है वो develop ही नहीं हुआ, या develop हुआ तो degenerate कर गया. या फिर ये भी हो सकता है कि the primordium may atrophy during the process of development. इसका जो primordium may have atrophied in the process. Okay, now comes a very, very important topic. उससे पहले let's find out about any problems that you have faced so far. Any questions? बेटे मैंने ये anomalies जो इतनी मेहनत से पढ़ाई हैं उसकी वजह से ये है कि MCQs तो अक्सर उन पे आता है. You may even get a short question. अभी आपका embryology का result मैंने देखा था, बड़ा disastrous किस्म का था. I don't think you're. I hope you're upset about it. But since nobody bothered to ask me any question about that embryology test, ठीक है, मैंने figure out कर लिया. Ultimobranchial body, I told you. Thank you, Gaur. Ultimobranchial body, बेटा मैंने आपको बताया था, fourth arch से develop होती है, इसके ventral component से. Even fifth arch अगर वो assist करती है, if it develops at all, the fifth भी contribute करती है, otherwise fourth arch से develop करती है from the ventral vein. Actually, DIGEORGE syndrome भी repeat कर देती हूँ. So we were talking about the ultimobranchial body. Ultimobranchial body, simply the ventral. I'll go back to the ultimobranchial body. Slide. Perhaps it will be easier to understand. Yeah. From the ventral wing of the fourth arch. अब fourth arch भी आपको पता है descend करती है, develops into parathyroid dorsal wing से और ventral wing से ultimobranchial body. This arch, the two wings, as the structures develop into it, they descend caudally. ये देख लीजिए, they also ये भी descend कर रहा है caudally. Now ventral wing से ultimobranchial body develop होती है. Now what happens is कि ये जो ultimobranchial body है, obviously it is made of endodermal cells. आपके जो parathyroid है, that is also made up of endodermal cells. So ये जो endodermal cells जो हैं, they develop into cell clusters. ठीक है, ये clusters जो हैं, along with the superior parathyroid, they migrate and come to lie behind the developing thyroid gland in the midline. ये देख लीजिए, इसकी डायरेक्शन भी वही है, medially and downwards. Passes behind the parathyroid, behind the developing thyroid gland. Now the difference is कि जो superior parathyroid था, that is only attached to the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. जबकि ये जो ultimobranchial body है, this breaks up into small pieces or smaller cells. These cells then enter thyroid gland and they spread out into the substance of the thyroid gland. मैं फिर repeat कर देती हूँ. The cells of the ultimobranchial body break down into smaller pieces, smaller clusters of cells that enter the developing thyroid gland and spread all around, all into the thyroid gland. ये जो cells हैं, they develop into C cells या parafollicular cells. The cells of the ultimobranchial body, they develop into parafollicular cells. ठीक है? इनका basic origin जो है, इस pouch के cells का जो basic origin, वो cells that develop into parafollicular cells, ये ultimobranchial body के जो cells हैं, they come from neural crest cells. ठीक है? I hope ultimobranchial body is clear to you. बच्चा? I guess it is. अब मैं करती हूँ DIGEORGE syndrome. DIGEORGE कहा था ना आपने? Okay. Thank you, Gohar. जी बेटे, अब let's come to DIGEORGE syndrome. So ये फर्स्ट आर्च सिंड्रोम का दो कंपोनेंट्स हैं, एक ट्रेचर-कॉलन सिंड्रोम है तो दूसरा DIGEORGE सिंड्रोम है. ट्रेचर-कॉलन सिंड्रोम जो है, ये ऑटोसोमल डोमिनेंट जीन से है एंड अच्छा, अब दिस इज DIGEORGE सिंड्रोम जो कि आपके थर्ड आर्च एंड फोर्थ दोनों पाउचेस, क्योंकि थाइमस और पैराथायरॉइड का डिफेक्ट है. This poor child is born without a thymus. He or she is born without a parathyroid. So that means that he third and fourth pouch defect का problem है, because parathyroids develop from both third and fourth pouches. Sorry, using the word arch. बेटा arch नहीं है, ये pouch है. The parathyroids develop from third and fourth दोनों से, जबकि जो थाइमस है वो थर्ड पाउच से डेवलप होता है. अब एब्सेंस ऑफ दीज टू या ये कि डिफेक्ट ऑफ थर्ड एंड फोर्थ पाउच, उसकी वजह से और क्या कुछ होगा. उसकी वजह से एक तो ये है कि इस पाउच में न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स नहीं आए. ठीक है, जब न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स नहीं आए तो इन दैट केस अब यहाँ पे कार्डिक आउटफ्लो ट्रैक्ट्स का भी प्रॉब्लम होगा. ओके, बल्बल रिजेस जो हैं, दे आर फॉर्म्ड फ्रॉम न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स. सो दैट इज द पार्ट which develops into the outflow tract. So outflow tract, cardiac outflow tract जो anomaly होगी, developmental anomaly होगी. उसके अलावा जो कार्डियक एनोमलीज हैं उनमें से आर्च ऑफ एओर्टा और हार्ट की एनोमलीज एसोसिएटेड विद द anomalies associated with the neural crest cells. So neural crest cells से एक तो हार्ट के वाल्व्स बनते हैं और outflow tract, they are contributed by the neural crest cells. So if there are not enough neural crest cells, obviously we're going to have defects in the developing heart. उसके अलावा अब thymus नहीं है. In the absence of thymus, thymus is made up of T cells, T lymphocytes. And obviously, lymphocyte है तो they contribute to immunities. So if और thymus में T lymphocytes बनते हैं. So if the thymus is absent, there are going to be no T lymphocytes. As a result, the baby is susceptible to infections. More chances of infection in this baby because he is deficient of T lymphocytes. Whatever the T lymphocytes, अगर वो कहीं से आ भी गए हैं, bone marrow में से अगर आ भी गए हैं, तो they are defective. So the cell the function है that will be defective. Basically, mostly तो T lymphocytes they fail to develop because the thymus is absent. उसके अलावा माउथ की anomalies हैं इसमें fish mouth deformity होती है because the philtrum of the upper lip जो है that is short. So there is a short upper lip resulting in a fish-like deformity. उसके अलावा ears की eyes की deformity होती है. The ears are low set. The nose is cleft. Bifid nose होता है. And then along with the parathyroids, thyroid gland का भी hypoplasia होता है. Normally develop नहीं हुआ होता, underdeveloped होता है. और मैंने आपको ये भी बताया है कि ये थर्ड और फोर्थ पाउचेस की वजह से इनकी माल डेवलपमेंट की वजह से they fail to develop, plus some components of the first arch that require neural crest cells. वो जो components हैं they are have not developed normally. ठीक है. अच्छा जी, उसके अलावा have I answered your question, beta? Any other question? Okay. You're welcome, my dear. You're welcome. Okay. Any other question? Anything you want me to repeat? It seems that there is no other question. Good to know कि mostly चीजें आपको at least for now आपको समझा रही हैं. Right, then I'm open to questions, any type of question, even if they are related to gross anatomy or related to your substage that you had 2 days ago. इसलिए क्योंकि I'm not going to start with the development of the tongue. This is a very important topic, extremely important from your examination point of view. Every now and then you get a question on the development of the tongue. ठीक है, दो इसमें सब questions बहुत commonly आते हैं. एक development of tongue and दूसरा is the development of thyroid gland. Parathyroids मैंने आपको करवा दिए हैं. Now we have to do the development of thyroid gland. Day after tomorrow, inshallah, in my next class, I'll do the development of tongue and I'll also do the development of thyroid gland. ये दो बहुत important है. अगर question नहीं आएगा, full question नहीं आता तो इसमें से MCQ जरूर आएगा. So you're going to get one question somewhere or the other from the head and neck, and there is every possibility कि वो tongue से या thyroid gland से आए, because ये दो बहुत common है. इनकी abnormalities भी काफी common है. ठीक है जी. So और the good thing is कि hopefully inshallah next week or week after that we are also going to do the gross anatomy of the thyroid and parathyroid glands. So आपके लिए इसको समझना थोड़ा सा आसान हो जाएगा. But in any case, I will explain the gross anatomy quickly. I'll first give you a quick resume of the gross anatomy of the tongue and of the thyroid gland, and then I'll go ahead and do the development, because otherwise आपको ये development जो है समझने में मुश्किल होगी. अच्छा जी. So कोई और question? I see we are in the last minute of our lecture. So is last minute, if you have any questions before I wind up. So towards the end, we have 137 students. Okay, fine. Fine. The more the merrier. I don't suppose you have any questions. So I hope you appreciate one thing. अभी तक जो हेड एंड नेक में हमने डिफेक्ट्स देखे हैं उनमें से मोस्टली डिफेक्ट्स जो हैं वो न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स के प्रॉब्लम्स थे, डेफिशिएंसी ऑफ न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल। वही न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स अगर हेड एंड नेक में इनसफिशिएंट अगर उनकी माइग्रेशन है तो we end up in multiple, not only in multiple problems in the head and neck, we also end up in problems elsewhere. Cardiac anomalies associated with the anomalies in the head and neck. So neural crest cells, they are extremely important. और ये मत सोचेगा कि न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल आपने फर्स्ट ईयर में पढ़ा था तो आपकी जान छूट गई है उनसे, तो सेकंड ईयर में जान नहीं छोड़ते हैं। ठीक है, न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स आर इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट और न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स की उसमें। Okay, so my time is over. It's Khuda Hafiz for now, and I will see you inshallah on Saturday.